Hey boys and girls, it's Mrs. Hops. I'm here today to show you how to get your chameleon prepped and ready for paint. So last week we took simple shapes to draw our chameleon, and you should have received feedback from your teacher on what you need to improve. Or you can look at your work and also talk about what you think you need to improve on. For example, when I see my work, I feel like there's a big empty space right up here, so I'm gonna add another leaf with my pencil. And just adding those leaf lines to make it look like it's overlapping. And maybe down here I'll add another leaf, maybe coming off of the side. Sometimes leaves do go sideways. Just to fill up some of these empty spaces. Just a few. Once you have refined your drawing and made it what you really want or what your teacher had suggested, it's time to outline this so that we can make it easier to paint. Since we'll be doing watercolors for this, the easiest way to prep for this is to use simply a black crayon. You don't want to use a marker unless it's a permanent marker for this, because the paint and the water in the paint can mix with the marker and make it actually come back to life and wet. But a crayon resists the water in the paint and will almost act like a wall to keep your paint in, and it's a little easier to stay in the lines. But drawing with a crayon can be kind of difficult. So I recommend getting a piece of paper and just draw some simple lines on it first. Maybe a straight line, a zigzag line. You can try a loopy line, or a line that you know that's in your chameleon, like a spiral. The trick with tracing with a black crayon is you don't want to use the flat edge of the crayon. You almost want to hold it sideways or use the side of the crayon. So I'm going to hold it kind of sideways, and I want to push hard and try to make along the line as possible while tracing that line. If your line turns or meets another point, that's a great place to stop and continue on. As you're moving sideways, you will lose some sharpness to that edge. And that's okay, just turn your crayon over and find a new edge. It'll always even out in the end. You can even use the end side of the crayon and draw from the other side. What you don't want to do is hold it down completely flat and make a line, because look at how thick that is, and that's not going to make it look nice. You also don't want to trace very lightly, because that's not going to make your chameleon stand out. It doesn't give it a good outline, and it's not going to hold your paint in. You want to push very hard, almost like you're burnishing with that crayon. And go slow, because once you go outside the lines, eek, there's not a lot you can do to fix it besides erase that point. So I practiced with a couple lines. I'm feeling pretty comfortable. I think I'm going to start on my chameleon. Now, since he's the most important part of my drawing, I'm going to start with him first, trying to do that main shape of the body. And this is a really good point, that if you have parts that are overlapping, make sure you stop at that line and continue. I don't want that line to go through my chameleon's legs, because his legs are not see-through. So I'm pushing nice and hard, going really slow around my spiral so I don't accidentally go outside that line. And I'm using the side of my crayon versus the tip of my crayon. And sometimes I find it easier to turn my paper in a different direction, and that's okay too. Once I have the main body done, I can move over to outline my head and any of my little details. If you're pushing nice and hard, you actually sometimes can hear the wax of the crayon sticking to the paper, and you'll hear like a little pop sound. Do you hear that? It almost sounds like I have pop rocks. Now remember, anything that you wanted to be stood out so that it looks like it's overlapping, you just come down and then outline on the other side. And already my chameleon is starting to look bolder it's standing out, and I have a really nice crisp outline. Now let's say the dog is distracting me as I'm drawing, or my friend is trying to talk to me, and I accidentally go outside the lines of what I was trying to do. It's not the end of the world. What you can do is come back in with your eraser and just very carefully get close to that line and erase over the pencil. So make it look like you never made that mistake to happen. You do not, however, want to get on that black line and erase it, because it will smudge and smear your crayon, and then the paint will not be able to go onto your paper. So go slow and try to take and make the mistake before it happens and prevent it. Now, once you are done outlining things, you want to make sure that you go over every single area, including your leaves and your branches. So I'm going to speed things up and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm all done. So now I just have this one little leaf to finish. I'm still pushing hard, trying to make sure I burnish so I can see a nice crisp outline. And when you're all done, it kind of looks like a coloring page. But remember, next week, we're going to be painting these with a very special set of colors. So do not paint your chameleon yet. If you want to practice, you can always draw a different one on a sketch paper or on your practice lines to do that with. But don't paint your chameleon until we see each other again. I can't wait to see what they look like.